Oh, good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for having me on. I have not presented at BoulderNet since pre-COVID. So the last time I was there in person. So good to see so many people on the call today and just being active. And we'll just dive right into things. Yes, I have the boring PowerPoint, but I will try not to be boring. So let me just complete that, and everybody should be seeing that, correct?
Yep.
And since we did run a little bit long with the introductions, I normally am allowing questions throughout the presentation. However, now we're going to have to wait till the end. But anyways, what I want to talk to you today about is those 7 tools that HR uses to cut you. I heard a lot of people who are going, oh, I just go dropping in the HR black hole. I never hear any feedback. And it's a big point of frustration. So part of knowing the game or the procedures for HR can help understand and improve your chances of getting an interview. So I am a career coach, and some of you are probably wondering that, what is a career coach anyways? So kind of think about your career, and do you feel like this weird internet connection in the bathroom at work? Yes, this is the bathroom at my office, and I don't understand why we have a high-speed internet connection in the bathroom. Both of those are 2 wonderful tools, but they're not necessarily in the right place together. So you might feel that, hey, you are a wonderful high power internet connection that's just not in the right place. And as a career coach, I work with people to help them, figure out what that right place would be, and more importantly, how to get that job that will get them out of a crappy situation and into something that's going to be more appreciative of their talents. So for my company, I've been doing this for over 18 years now. And during that time, we've worked with over 3,000 individual clients. I have over, closing in now on close to 8,000 virtual students, but it really is all about the same purpose, which is helping people achieve those jobs that they really want. So just a touch more about me. Yes, if you're fast on math, it is over 15 years of experience with career coaching. My own background is in human resources and recruiting. So everything I teach is kind of based on that point of view. And I stay closely attached to the SHRM, which is the Society of Human Resources Management. So we're always researching and figuring out what's going on in the current market and adjusting our strategies to meet that. I do have a book out there called Get a Job Without Going Crazy. I've spoken at national platforms. Yes, in person. I flew there and everything. And I am an award-winning coach, specifically as Educator of the Year for all of my work with job seekers. And yeah, you might want to consider me your job searching sensei. And I actually do in real life have a 2nd degree black belt. Now, one of the things about our company, it really is our people that are making the difference. So all of our writers are local to the US. They're bringing years of experience to the table. And I have a total of 6 coaches and writers in addition to myself. So this is just a few of them. But of course, here's our most important team members. So we've got Felix D. Katz, who's our Director of Finance, and Georgie Shannon, who's our Director of Customer Relations. If you think these cats look weird, yes, they are. Felix only has 2.5 legs, and Georgie has 3 legs. So they both understand how job seekers feel to not have a leg to stand on. Ba-dum-bum. So what does my company do? We are the Personal Touch Career Services. We, of course, offer all the writing services, resumes, LinkedIn profiles, cover letters. We work with professionals who are anywhere from entry level all the way up to the executive suite. And on the coaching side of things, we have a signature program, which is called the Down and Dirty Job Search, which is really about every aspect of the job search itself. So if you find yourself struggling to finding the positions, or you're not getting past HR, your old reliable network's just not working anymore, or you're gaining interviews but not landing the job, or if you're not getting as much salary as you should, those are all telltale signs that some coaching might be in order. I also, new thing, have a membership portal which provides exclusive how-tos, bonus content. I run a job seeking networking group myself called the Brown Bag Job Search Group. We meet once a month, and all those recordings are available through our membership portal as well. All right, last thing, then we're going to get into the content. We do offer a complimentary 30-minute consultation. I did put the link for that into the chat. So we'll talk about your resume and just kind of like your job search overall, and see if we can do anything to help you improve your results. So let's dive into this. So some people kind of think that HR is like this, where you've got the, hiring manager, the HR department manager is carefully reading through your resume, considering all of your qualifications and just how can you possibly fulfill not just the job you applied to, but the next 2 or 3 down the road, because you have so many wonderful talents. They can already picture you and go moving right up their corporate ladder. Okay, does anybody believe that that's actually really happening? No, of course it's not. It's a lot more like this. Everywhere, HR departments are being drowned in a deluge of candidates, which means that they must cut 95% or more of all applicants. And to do this, that means that all of them are going to rely on these simple tricks to thin the herd. And because of that, qualified applicants are often getting cut simply because they don't understand the rules or the strategies that HR is using to cut them. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I want to do a little bit of a pop quiz just to see how well you understand the hiring process already. So you can put your answers here in the chat. So when it comes to reviewing your resume, how long do you think someone in HR is actually going to look at your application before deciding if you should get an interview? So then just throw it into the chat. So we got a lot of E's. So I feel that 20 to 30 seconds. Yeah, so it used to be, like during the last recession, 2008, 2010, it was like the 30 seconds. Now we know it is often 6 seconds. So we have to make a strong impression immediately. And a lot of times that means they're just skimming the resume first, and they're looking for those highlights. If they see the right kind of highlights, then they will dive deeper to actually read the thing. So let's talk about who is actually screening that resume. Is it computers who are looking for keywords and mistakes? Is it your HR managers who want to make sure all this is done right? Is it your entry-level people, or is it ANC, or is it all of the above? So we've got some A's, we've got some D's, we've got some ANCs. So it is, in fact, D. So it is both the computers and the entry-level HR people. As we know, with the rise of AI, we're seeing more companies using the computers to screen resumes. But even when it gets to the human being phase, it's still going to be the entry-level HR people. So if you're like an IT person with a lot of technical terms within your resume, it may have gotten through the screening computer, but that HR person is going to be reading it and not fully understanding what you're doing. So that's why you still want to get in touch with hiring managers. So the job posting said no phone calls. Should you never call because you don't want to break the rules? Call once just to verify they got your application, or call several times to let them know how interested you are in the job. I know, how old-fashioned is this? People have phones that they speak on? What a shock, right? So I would actually even extend this beyond just the no phone calls to also, should you reach out to the HR person on LinkedIn, if you can see like that they posted the job. Like with premium, you get to see more of the people who actually posted the position. And I actually have always felt that B is justified. Yes, you can do the never called because you don't want to break the rules, but typically speaking, a single phone call and you'll have to just leave a message. They're not going to pick up the phone and talk to you, or that one message through LinkedIn. Hey, just a heads up, I'm very interested in your job and I did submit the application. Again, they're probably not going to reply to you, but it can't hurt just to do at least one single touch before letting the opportunity go. So let's talk about how many matching keywords do you need. So the percentage of comparing the keywords in your resume to the keywords in the job description, what percentage do you think you need to have? So is it just 10% of those keywords in your resume? Is it more like 50%, 100%? Let's see what y'all think. We got a lot of E's, the 85%. D, 70%. Yeah, yep. So I will land blast the 100%. That is false. If you write your resume with 100% of all the keywords within it, it's not going to sound like anything good anymore. It's just going to sound like the computer wrote it, which is not what we're going after. In my experience, it's actually a 50 to 70% match on these keywords is good enough to get through the screening computers. It's starting to creep more like 70, 75%, just because with the rise of AI, people are using things like ChatGPT to identify the keywords, make sure they're going into their resume. So even January 2023, HR saw a massive increase in the amount of people getting through the computerized screener because they're using ChatGPT to match the keywords. But if you don't at least have a 50 to 70% match, you're not going to survive that computer screening process. So cliche phrases such as like excellent communication skills, are these boring and should never be used? Are not needed if your resume is written well, because obviously that's going to show that you have communication skills, or should be used if they are in the job description. I'm glad to see that y'all are hooking onto that. Yes, C is the correct answer. And there was a lot of strong trends going on in, professional resume writers, career coaches saying, don't put that boring stuff in your resume. It doesn't mean anything. But if you don't understand that HR process, because we need to have that like 70% of keywords, that includes stupid keywords like excellent communication skills. So yes, we have to use them. If HR uses it, it has to be in your resume somewhere. So how well did you do? I look like a lot of people have already been getting some pretty good information about dealing with this HR department, but it's still can be kind of shocking when you see the percentages and all these rough tools that HR is going to be using. So one of the things I do like to point out is the trap of these applicant tracking systems, or ATS. So they are only as good as the end user, which means it's an HR person, not an IT person. So when you see something that's got like Workday or Trello or some of the other, forms that says powered by Trello on the application process. So when a company buys a program like that, implementing it is an out of the box solution. So if they don't go through and tweak any of these settings or pay an implementation team to help them customize it, you're getting just the standard things. So many years ago, I was helping a person who used to do HR for an Ivy League school, and they had put in a new ATS. And after like 2-3 months of using it, she noticed a weird pattern in that all the applicants that they were hiring had last names that started in either A, B, or C. She's like, well, that's a weird trend. And she went and looked at it. And it turns out that when she was getting the list of the screened candidates, the ones that had been screened by the computers, no humans had seen them yet, she was the next level, she thought she was getting them in a list of qualifications with top applicants scored top. Instead, it was an alphabetical list. And because she didn't realize that, all the new hires had names with A's, B's, and C's. So of course they could not go back and notify all the other past applicants. They certainly could not reopen the job. They couldn't make all the people they just hired reapply. All of those actions would have opened them for a lawsuit, which sounds awful that they just kind of had to brush it under the rug. But you got to remember, who does HR serve? They don't serve the candidates, they serve the company. So it's almost like they have to do a lot of CIY. So let's talk about the very first 3 simple rules. And anytime you're dealing with HR. So number 1, don't let them assume. Number 2, don't be annoying. And number 3, don't create extra work. So with letting them assume, anytime HR has to assume anything on your resume, they will always assume against you. To this day, I will still write down Microsoft Office into an executive's resume. And they'll be like, why are you putting that on there? This resume is in Word. They can assume I know Word. It's not that big of a deal for me. I have an assistant who does all that stuff. However, if the job description has anywhere on there Microsoft Office or Excel reports, and it's not in the resume, they're not going to go, oh, this is a Word document. Of course you know Word. They go, nope, it's not on the resume. I assume that you do not know Microsoft Office. Oof, harsh, right? But that's how it works. So number 2 is don't be annoying. So if you're annoying, HR can find an excuse to cut you. So let's talk one quick moment about the no phone calls, please. I used to work at Channel 6 here in Denver, so Rocky Mountain PBS. And of course, I was doing the recruitment and stuff like that. And we had the no phone calls, please. And I also, part of my job, I covered the receptionist lunch. So I was up there covering lunch one day. We get a phone call, and this person's like, hi, I'd like to speak to Donna Shannon, please. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, she's away from her desk right now. I can give you her voicemail. And then the person goes off. She's like, oh, that Donna Shannon is never at her desk and she never returns any phone calls. I have been trying to reach her for a month. Just, does she even really do any work? And I'm like, well, I can't really comment on that. However, I can give you her voicemail and let you know that you called. Fine, just send me over there. So of course I get back to my desk and I'm listening to the voicemail. Turns out it's a candidate who's been trying to get a hold of me because they are just so interested in this position in our communications department. And of course, this message was sweet and nice and everything. But guess what? I'm not going to let somebody who just blasted me to me ever go through my company, period. There is such a thing as getting blackballed with an organization, and she definitely earned one. And yes, everything tied to her email was flagged in our system. So that's being annoying. So other annoying habits is like not following the HR procedure. Like I've heard this advice from other career coaches. And you know what? Nobody ever gets through on an application anyway, so don't bother sending an application. Just email your resume directly to the manager and to the recruiter. No, you have to follow the HR procedures. Doing things like asking for favors. I would get oh, I saw this job closed yesterday. However, I just saw it today online. Can I still apply for the position? No, it was a deadline. It was yesterday. It's an HR person. It's not my fault nor my problem that you didn't see it then. I would also get really annoyed if somebody would like call 5 minutes after submitting their resume. I'm not licking with bated breath on every single application coming through, or also asking for the interview too soon, which means in those messages that they were sending me, or these cold emails or cold messages through LinkedIn where they're like, I am sure you want to interview me right away, and I am available on Friday between 3 and 5. It's like, well, that's nice for you, but I'm not, and I don't even know who you are. So rule number 3, don't create extra work. So one of the phrases that kind of destroys this is that, please consider me for anything you feel is a good fit for my skills. Okay, in HR, they're not going to sit there and go, let me read your resume and see all your potential and all your, no, they never do that. You have to ask clearly for what you want and tell them why you're the best candidate, because then they don't have to go through that extra brain power to go, all right, well, let's just see what you fit. So the things that are always helpful to give to HR, obviously the title of the job you're applying for, where you saw the job advertised, your contact information in the cover letter, and big tip, put your name in your Word document. To this day, do you know how many resumes I see that say resume 2023? If I'm looking for your resume and I'm trying to search through a database or even through my downloads or whatever, and I don't see Joe Schmo resume 2023, I'm not going to find Joe Schmo's resume because I have 100 documents that are named resume. Be helpful, include your name, make things easy to find. All right, so let's dive deeply into these 7 tools that HR is going to be using to cut you. So these are just basically universal tricks and traps that we know HR departments continually use. So here's all the 7. So it's clear written instructions, a yes/no factor, industry knowledge, annoyance, relevance, difficult communication, and finally is their gut reaction. So the first one here, this clear written instructions, it's just as simple as it sounds. So you need to send them everything they ask for in exactly the way they request it. Believe it or not, even to this day, more than 50% of the candidates are going to get this wrong. So let's think about that. All you have to do is follow instructions and you're already ahead of 50% of the people. I see so many people who are like, oh, I saw on LinkedIn that they have 150 applicants for this job. Well, 75 are going to fail and applying. So going back into these clear written instructions, one of my favorite tricks would always be, what are they asking you to send in the job description itself? So if you're applying through LinkedIn and you've got the easy apply button, it's so tempting to just hit that because it feels like you accomplished something. However, if it says in the job posting, submit your resume and cover letter and you hit easy apply and don't attach those, you just got cut because you didn't follow the instructions. Sometimes they're tricky in that they'll have the easy apply button active on the actual job posting, whether it's on Indeed, ZipRecruiter, LinkedIn, whatever. But if you read the instructions, it says, go to our website to apply for this position. If you only apply through LinkedIn and you don't go to the website, you just got cut because you didn't follow the instructions. They put these traps in there on purpose because they know it's going to thin out the herd. So just pay attention for what they're asking for. Number 2 is the yes, no factor. So that is a specific criteria that's essential for the job. So if you think about it, it's pretty obvious because they need this specific skill, education, experience, credentials, whatever necessary to do the job. If I'm hiring a medical doctor, they have to have a license to perform medicine in the state of Colorado. It's a given, it's a yes, no factor. So how do we get through the yes, no factors? So number 1, it's about using the right keywords. And I'm going to give you one that's kind of like the stupidest keyword of all time, but you would be surprised at how many people fail at this one. If your resume has your degree listed as a BS and it does not write out Bachelor of Science, just the BS, the job posting says they're looking for a bachelor's degree. It has the actual words. If nobody tells the computer that a BS is a bachelor's degree, they might cut you and say that you have no education. It's truly a stupid keyword. So that's why using these right keywords is so important. And I like to cover our bases with our clients. So that way you don't have to do such a minor tweak every time you apply. So it will say Bachelor of Science, parentheses, BS. Then no matter what form the job description says regarding that degree, it is going to successfully pass the education requirement. So that's where about 20% of people are going to get killed because they don't have the necessary requirements for the position. So number 3 is our industry knowledge. So this is directly related to jargon, language, acronyms, and of course, spelling and grammar. I would not be worth my grain of salt as a resume writer, if I didn't point out, you have to have proper spelling and grammar. But this is kind of like the first test and to see if you know what you're doing. So all the other, step 1 and 2, that's where you're getting screened on that 6-second point. Here's they're doing the 30-second read. And when I'm saying proper jargon, I've seen articles online that say don't use jargon, acronyms, etc. in your resume. But if you're not using it and using it properly in a sentence, how is HR or the hiring manager going to understand that you know what you're talking about? Just think about it that way. So I always encourage people to check your work before you're sending it out. Grammarly is awesome. Pay for the premium version, which is about $144 a year. To give you a heads up on that one of my writers had been using the free version for years. And I do look over all of our resumes before they go out to our clients. And all I did was just do the Grammarly scan and send it back to her. And there was like all these red marks, because we, do markups on the resumes. And then finally they asked me, hey, should I be paying for Grammarly? I'm like, yes, absolutely, completely, 100%. Because the spell check features in Microsoft Word are not nearly as dynamic or intuitive as Grammarly. Plus with Grammarly, you can adjust the tone if you want to have it more formal business, which is what resumes are written in, versus something casual. And what she found was when she purchased that advanced Grammarly, guess what? All my markups on her resumes dropped like dramatically. Just saying, use the tools that are going to be of best purpose for you. So only about 5 to 10% of the candidates are going to get through based on their industry knowledge. So number 4, annoying. You already know HR is always going to target those annoying people. And whether it's the constant phone calls, the constant emails through LinkedIn, the direct emails, or any of that stuff. Yeah, sometimes it's kind of like a power trip for them. But here's the thing. Remember, they have to cut 95% or more of all the applicants. That means they are always looking for that easy cut. It sounds real harsh, but it's true that sometimes you can have the qualifications, but still come across less professional, and that will cost you the opportunity. Not to mention, remember, it's our entry-level HR people who are doing these first levels of screening. It's not like the HR director is going to review their work. It's very much trusting into them to screen things properly. And that means if they're annoyed, they will cut you. So the other thing I like to point out with the annoying things is always be clear and concise in your communications and respect their time and be professional. I'm a little bit mortified today because I had one of my clients, he does this, he goes through and he'll find a job he's interested in and he'll ask me if I know anybody there or search through my contacts on LinkedIn. And if I know the person for real, it's not, I have over, I think it's 7,000. Yeah, I have over 7,000 followers. So I don't actually know all the people I'm connected to. I know, bad, but if I know somebody and one of my clients is looking for an introduction, I will do that. So it happened to be, I knew the recruiter for this job that he's interested in. So I did the introduction. And rather than saying to the recruiter on his next message, he should have said, thank you very much for your time. I'd love to learn out more about you and your processes and kind of what your ideal candidates are. Short, sweet. No, he didn't do that. In this LinkedIn message, he sent 3 dense paragraphs that drove into who's the hiring manager, how do I get an interview? I'm either, I want to send you my resume so that we can set up an interview. I'm like, you just asked for everything in the very first message. You did nothing to build the relationship or value their time. And it was just like asking far too much. And that's annoying. You can't do that, especially when you've got a direct introduction from somebody. Pull things back, build relationships, make a connection, then start asking for favors. And that works with all your networking, not just when you're reaching out to HR and recruiters. All right, so number 5 is relevance. Now they're really reading the resume for the content. So they're down to their like top 10, 15% of the candidates. So this is when they're really evaluating things for the right fit. They're checking out your achievements, they're checking out your education, they're actually reading things. So one big clue, your resume is not about you. I'm like, you're probably going, what? Well, that makes no sense. Of course it's about me. It's my work history. It's my achievements. It's everything. It's like, no, your resume should always be written with the mindset that this is all about the employer and how well you fit their needs. So you need to understand what are some of the challenges that are inherent with the industry. What problems can you solve? And can you generate revenue or save them money? By the way, those last 3 are the big 3 things. If you can prove that you can do one of these, just one, solve problems, make money, or save money, they are far more likely to call you for the interview rather than somebody who's just like talking about how awesome they are and what, why they're a great candidate. You have to kind of keep that mindset. It's always about what the company needs. So number 6 is the difficult communication. So this is the point where they're like reaching out to people to set up those initial interviews, phone screenings, whatever the case may be. And honestly, if they have trouble reaching you, you may get caught. You could be technically listed as a top applicant on paper, but if they can't get you within a reasonable time frame, they're going to move on to other candidates. This is what I call the heartbreak cut. I would have these top applicants, and I had 1 week to get all my initial screening interviews done. And I would have a candidate that absolutely love everything about them. Awesome experience, awesome background, key achievements, love their LinkedIn. Just, I'm really, really want to talk to this person. And I've sent 2 or 3 messages, or I've left a couple of voicemails, and they never get back to me. Well, you know what? I have to keep moving forward in the process, which means, unfortunately, that person's not going to get the consideration because they never got back to me. So you have to be available, responsible, and professional in order to get this happening. Yes, that means you may have to pick up the phone call from numbers you don't know on caller ID. You might end up with some people asking about your car's extended warranty. But if it's leading to a job, you have to answer your phone. Also, the other thing is make sure you don't have like weird automatic messages going out on voicemail. So I've seen the voicemail lady, which I hate the voicemail lady because I don't know who I'm talking to. Voicemail lady is that just automated voice that goes, "You have reached 720-452-3400. Please leave a message at the beep." No name, no nothing. I've heard hardcore rap lyrics, like with all the naughty words on them, on a voicemail. Yeah, I'm not leaving a message for that. That's a cut. I've also, this is another heartbreak one I see. I will call people and their voicemail will not be set up, or the voicemail box is full. And if I'm really interested in somebody, I may try a secondary communication method, email, LinkedIn, whatever. But if it's a large, busy HR department, they may not do that. You may only get the one shot. That's why I say this all depends on how good your competition is. If all the other interview slots have been filled by these other people who got back right away, you're going to miss out on that opportunity. So I did actually have one of my clients say they didn't want to change their voicemail greeting because he's like, all my friends know me as a free, fun spirit, and I don't want them to think I'm putting on airs or whatever. And I'm like, if they're really your friends, they're going to be supportive of your job search. And then when you nail a position, then you can go back to your weird old message. It's fine. Just don't do it right now. So let's talk about number 7, which is our very last screening tool. And it really is a gut reaction. So at this point, they've met you or talked to you on the phone or met you, done the Zoom interview. They may have even done the automated Zoom interview, which are nightmares in and of themselves. Yes, I get it. But what they're going to do is take all of those factors, and really who they've had the most positive experience with is going to be moved forward through HR. And that's why it's like a reflection of their work. Every candidate they push through to the hiring manager, meaning that person who's going to be your future boss. So again, it's such a key point to be professional, relevant, and passionate. Because when we get into these upper reaches where the gut is involved, Companies like to hire passionate people if they're smart, because a passionate person is going to stay longer. They will produce better quality work. They're not out as sick as often. They're not going to do the quiet quitting thing on you and all the rest of this. So that's why they're looking for this. And out of all the candidates, only 3 to 5% are going to get through. Just remember, if we have 100 applicants, 95% have to be cut. And there's no way that a hiring manager is going to do personal interviews with more than 5 candidates. It's pretty rare. So how else can we build this positive impression? A lot of it has to do with your homework. When you're going in for that interview, make sure you've researched the company and looked at your notes recently. My favorite question to ask of all time is, what do you know about my company? I still use it today when I'm hiring new resume writers and coaches. And you would be surprised at the amount of people who get it wrong. It's like, you're a resume writer. How could you not get what we do here? It's crazy, but it happens. I've also had candidates tell me things like, well, you know, I read about your website and I took a look at it when I applied for the position, but that was a few weeks ago. Like, you know, the interview was coming up. This wasn't out of the blue. At least look at the website the day before or in the morning, whatever. Just come on, do your homework. Next is asking the relevant questions. So that means based on your homework, come up with some intelligent questions that directly relate to this company, their products, and all the rest of this stuff. Those smart questions show that you're really engaged. And of course, show your passion for the job. Now, afterwards, you need to keep your contact going. Yes, you want to send a thank you note to the HR department. Very, very few people do this. I've heard estimates that only 10 to 15% of people are sending thank you notes following an interview. That's not just with the HR department. That's like with the hiring manager. It's like, what? No, keep it going, reach out, reinforce the relationship in whatever way that you can. Now, if everything you've been doing has been through LinkedIn or email thank you notes definitely work. Very valid. If you've got a physical address, you could send them a card that way. For HR, I'm a little less concerned with that. For a hiring manager, I definitely would want to throw a card in the mail. Yeah, with so many people working by remote, that physical card may or may not get to the person, but the email or LinkedIn certainly would. All right, so I'm opening it up for questions now. So you can either throw it in the chat or just open your microphone. I'll answer as many questions as we have time for, because I want to respect your guys' time for getting back to your networking time and things like that.
Donna, the presentation was phenomenal from the aspect of the HR person, which I completely appreciate because I am an HR manager. There is a couple of questions that popped through already. So Paul asked, how do you know if the computer is filtering you or it's a human? That's the first question.
Okay, so this was one of my favorite metrics to look at with anybody going through one of my consultations. So if you are getting an automated rejection within 24 to 72 hours after you apply for the position, the computer screened you out and no humans ever saw it. So that's a clear sign. And even if the rejection letter or note was written with a little bit better, elevation than what we used to see because of ChatGPT, it's that fast rejection that's a clear telltale sign.
So the second part to that was, do all auto-generated rejection emails equal failure to pass through the ATS? Will they ever be seen by a human?
Not necessarily, it's not necessarily the automation itself that's bad. It's the timing. So if you get a rejection 3 to 4 weeks later or longer, what that means is, yes, you did make it to the pool where humans saw it, but they still moved forward with other candidates instead. It kind of has to do with the timing for HR itself. Because after the 3-4 week mark, they've already done their initial interviews and they're moving forward with people. That's why they'll send that second batch of rejections to the ones who didn't make it.
Okay. Or will you be able to share your slides with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Mhm.
Okay, perfect. Laura, also with the slide deck being shared, the recording will also be shared at some point. Once we complete this out, it'll be posted and you'll get an email saying where it's posted within our YouTube, I believe. So if you have to get, next question. So if you have to get past the computer screening first before a human looks at your resume, when does the cover letter come into play?
Oh, excellent question. So let's back up just a moment and talk about what the reality is with cover letters today. Only 50% of HR departments will allow you to upload a cover letter into your application. That's just looking at it. That's not reading it or anything. That's just, can you attach it with the application? Then the other harsh part is, if they do allow you to attach the cover letter, there's a very strong possibility that they will not use any information in the cover letter itself for the screening. Again, that's how well did they set up their ATS system to do that or not. So when I hear people tell me that they spent hours adjusting their cover letter and they did 0 tweaks on the resume, that's backwards. You need to flip that script. You need to do the way we like to teach it, because I do teach people how to tweak their resumes, is you should only be spending 30-45 minutes tweaking your resume to a specific job once you know it, how the tricks on how to work. The cover letter, when the one sent to HR, can be fairly stock. Then when you're reaching out to hiring managers, which is a separate conversation, then you do a custom cover letter for that person, because they will actually care about the content in the cover letter. HR is literally just checking a box. Did you send the cover letter? Because it said optional, following written instructions. That's all they care about really when it comes to cover letters.
Awesome. Next.
So basically, you need to put all the keywords and stuff in your resume, and the cover letter is kind of secondary.
Yes, exactly. Yep. I actually saw a presentation last week about the rise of AI in work and recruitment. And there's a very strong movement to completely drop cover letters from consideration for applicants, because people are just writing them with ChatGPT. So it's no longer considered a viable test for candidacy within the cover letters themselves. And I'm sure that's going to continue evolving that way in the next year or two.
A couple more questions that popped through before you guys can just ask them directly yourselves. But what strategies have you found most effective for building a network on LinkedIn, particularly for candidates looking for an entry level or a junior position?
So that's not related to our HR discussion today. And that's a wonderful presentation that I would do as a separate thing.
Okay.
But there's a number of different ways to grow your network on LinkedIn to kind of get to that magic 501. But I'm going to share with you one of my most favorite secrets of all time. And that is to get involved in the groups on LinkedIn. Groups are awesome, because your network on LinkedIn includes not just your first degree connections, but also your second degree connections, your third degree connections, so your friends and your friends of friends, and finally, the group connections. So when you join a group like, for example, 5280 Linked, which is a Denver-based group with about 48,000 members to it, you build a subsequent base in your network of 48,000 people, which means when you go to do searches, it will be more effective. You will be found by more recruiters. And best of all, when you send a message or an invitation to a fellow group member, you can do so for free without spending money on an InMail to do it. So there you go, easiest way to build that network and just really start bumping up your stats and visibility.
Lisa, can you ask your question? Because it's got more specifics to it. Lisa Mitten.
Yeah, well, my question is about when you have the computer-based video interview and it's like from HireVue or something like that. I feel like I did terribly on it, but they're good for a year with a particular company. So would I kind of be able to expect that if I had passed that, I would not be getting the automatic rejection from the ATS system to future applications? Or do you think it would be, if I'd failed it, I would be getting those auto rejection?
So at what point did they invite you to do the HireVue interview? Was it automatic with the application itself, or did it come later?
It was automatic with one of the first applications I put in earlier this year. Try to respond within 5 days thing. So I did it, and then they closed that one. I didn't get that position, but I won't get another invitation to do it again for the next year for anything I apply for further.
Gotcha. So I wouldn't say that it's an automatic rejection just because the other position did not come through.
No, it's like if the computer says, oh, you failed this for future applications, would it auto reject me, or do you think?
It depends on how the company has the system set up. So that's, again, those out of the box solutions. Did they really go through and implement this properly? It may say that you're auto rejected for the next 12 months until you're able to submit a new video interview.
Yeah.
It may not. That's going to be 100% what's going on with those companies.
Okay.
So that is one of those reasons why I would reach out to the recruiter, either through LinkedIn or email or even phone call, to say, hey, I just wanted to check base with your automated interviews. Does this still count for future consideration as well? And
Okay.
those are procedure points, and you can ask procedure points from HR and recruiters.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that you could use the subject of, hey, in that interview was subject to a specific job, right? And other openings, you would want to speak to in a video interview. You would want to tailor your video interview to a specific opening, right? So
right, but I won't do another one because they keep it for a year, and so
Yeah.
any future applications it'll use that same video interview from before.
Yeah, they have a bad default in their system. So that's why I mean it's an HR procedures thing.
Right.
Because they're
And maybe I'm good. Maybe I passed it and I'm fine. I just don't have any way to know that.
right. That's the thing that's harsh, because it's not giving you any feedback.
Right.
That's why I would try to follow up with someone individually within that company,
Okay.
just to find out a little bit more about their procedures.
Okay, cool. I will do that. Thank you.
Sure.
I think from my perspective, depending on the size of the company is really going to trigger that ATS, whether it's being used or not. Whether, I think another aspect is mid to higher level positions, they're filling one position. Maybe the entry lower level, they might be trying to fill 2 to 5. And I think it really depends on the urgency of the business in what kind of state they're in as to how they're looking at these individual resumes. Because they may just, you mentioned it before, of they're on a timeline. So they have to get employees in. And I think that also affects how much detail is looked at with resumes.
Yeah, and absolutely. The bigger the company, the more harsh the computerized screening process is. You know, there's a huge difference with like applying to Kaiser Permanente with like, I don't know, 20,000 employees versus a little startup down the way that has 20 employees. Obviously, a 20 employee company is more likely to look at all the humans, but that with the AI, it's so cheap to do the computerized screening now. It almost makes it, why wouldn't you as an employer, just to cut some of the ones that you don't have time to look at. So, and by the way, the most harshest screening ones are government.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I
Sure.
think, real quick, last comment, because it is 10:42, and I appreciate everybody sticking around for the questionnaire, because whoever can stick around, and I'm not sure what your deadline is, Donna, of when you need to leave, but to the government thing, there's a workforce employee, Jen Underwood. She's no longer with the Workforce Boulder, but she actually applied for that position and she was rejected through the ATS. And then she also reached out to someone that she knew, and she was hired for her job at Workforce Boulder. So there's definitely some different angles that you can look at depending on your passion and desire for that particular job or that particular company.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like the strategy that I teach too about reaching out to hiring managers, because even if HR cuts you, a hiring manager or a strong networking contact can resurrect you from the dead, and it gives you a second chance. So I did just attach the PDF of the slides for today's presentation there into the chat.
Awesome.
So you should be able to click on that and download it immediately. Just please remember, we do offer the free consultation. The link is actually into the PowerPoint itself. So, since somebody had a question about LinkedIn, I do have an online LinkedIn class that's called LinkedIn Secrets for Job Seekers, which has a lot of those strategies in it. So I know that y'all have networking to get to, so I will let you get to that.
If you guys have questions, please reach out to Donna. Utilize the links and utilize the opportunity that you've been given. Donna, this is a fantastic angle to look at looking for work that helps kind of demystify the black